Hey guys, Games for Life here, and in today's video we're gonna review the Paver in Astroneer. You probably already know it. This is the Paver, it's an excavation item, and you can attach it to the front of a rover to build roads. Now I'm gonna craft a Paver and then we'll see how it handles a number of challenges. I'll give it a ranking for each one of the 5 challenges that we'll be testing the Paver in today. The ranking system goes from 1 to 20, with 20 being the best. At the end I will combine all 5 separate rankings into one overall rating. Alright, so first up we've got accessibility. This is very important because we'll be testing how early or late in the game you can get it and how easy it is to do so, depending on what resources you need for it. Now let me just find it in here, and here it is. So the Paver requires 1 aluminum alloy and 1 silicone. Let's head over to the chemistry lab and see what it takes to craft those. First off, aluminum alloy. So we need aluminum and copper for that. This is pretty easy to make. You can basically get it as soon as you've got the chemistry lab up and running. Then the silicone, for which you'll need resin, quartz and methane. Resin and quartz are really easy to get, their early game items, so the only thing you'll need is methane. As we can see right here, we can get methane on Novus or on Aatrox. I suggest getting it from Novus since Aatrox is harder. It's a harder challenge on Aatrox, I mean. So basically you can get the Paver as soon as you go to Novus. When you've got all those resources, you can craft 1 silicone and 1 aluminum alloy, and that's enough to craft yourself 1 Paver. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Overall you can get it pretty early. All you need to do is go to Novus, have an atmospheric condenser and a chemistry lab. So for that, its accessibility rating I'd say is at about an 18. So the Paver did really well for the first challenge. Now let's unpack it and place it on the rover. And let's get the drill out of here for right now. Okay, so the second criteria we'll be ranking it by is speed. So we'll compare the speed of a rover when you don't use the Paver with that of the rover using the Paver. So you can see this is the normal speed of a large rover. This is how you would usually drive around. Now let's see what happens when we turn the Paver on. Now this is the speed you've got. And you can definitely see it's a lot slower than before. Now let's switch the Paver on while going at full speed so we can really see the difference it makes. So here's the rover going at full speed, and now I'm gonna turn the Paver on and it almost comes to a dead stop. Yeah, so if you're looking to get somewhere really fast, then using the Paver could really make your journey longer than it needs to be. However, it comes in useful especially on certain planets such as Aatrox or in cave biomes. As you could probably imagine, its speed is not great, so I'll give it a 6 out of 20 for the speed rating. For the next challenge we'll pair it with a drill. I've got a drill strength 3 right now, but any type of drill works. You don't need these in order to use the Paver, but it makes it so much easier, and it provides larger opportunities, such as easier access into caves. That's why the third criteria for today is finding caves. Let's see how the Paver can handle finding a cave and going through it without your rover falling over. So we'll start digging down right here, and we should come to a cave in about 30 seconds or so, or maybe even sooner. I guess, yeah, so we found a small cave right here. Alright, let's stop it. Good, so we reached a cave. That really didn't take long, even though the rover was going pretty slow with the Paver on. And why do I say it's easier to traverse caves with the Paver? Because of these guys. So all you need to do is turn it on and you can go right over all of these obstacles. Keep in mind you'll need soil in order to do that, but if you pair it with a drill you can always get your soil on the go. Another advantage is that you don't fall into caves with your rover, so if we didn't have the Paver on right here, we would have just fallen into the cave and then it would have been really hard to get back up. Having that in mind, I'd say the Paver gets again an 18 out of 20 for finding caves. The next test for the Paver is paving roads on the surface of a planet. For this test we'll take the drill off at first, just to see how it behaves without it. So this is basically what you're doing, so you can build roads. And if you just want to go normally on the surface you can turn it off, and then you turn it back on when you have to fill over a gap or go over a big hole or whatever. However, when you come to something like this, for example, it's really hard to get up there. So you need to back up a bit, then you need to turn the paver on and then go upwards. And you just consumed a ton of soil to build a ramp. Now, the alternative to doing that is again pairing it with a drill. So I'll take the drill and put it back on the rover. Now, because you also have a drill, you can simply build a road downwards instead of over the terrain, which will save up on soil, but it will consume more power, obviously. And when you come to something like this, you can just go up to the wall, turn everything on, and then head upwards. You can see we've built a much smoother ramp here without consuming a ton of soil. And if we wanted to build a smoother ramp without the drill, we would have needed to start way back over there. And you can imagine how much soil that would have used. So considering you only need to pave roads on the surface and don't really care about your soil usage, or you go the second route and you pair it with a drill, I'd say the paver gets a 19 out of 20 for paving roads on the surface. After all, it's called a paver, that's what it does, and it's really good at it. The fifth and final test of the paver will be filling up holes. Now we'll take two things into account when doing this. First will be how deep does it fill it? Is it just surface filling or does it actually fill in deeper? And the second one is how much soil does it use? So basically if it fills deeper, then it consumes much more soil, and you probably don't need your holes to be filled all the way down since you only want to drive over them. Let's test it right here. So we'll go over this side. And there it is. So we've got our rover over that hole without falling in, and this is pretty good depth, I'd say, almost to the bottom. There's still place for our little Astroneer down here. So if you look at the thickness of the bridge we've created, it's literally thicker than the rover itself, even with all the attachments on it. So I'd say this is not a particularly good use of your soil. See, if the paver filled it in something like this, you would still be able to drive over it, but it would consume so much less soil. Now this probably goes to personal preference, but I don't think you need your holes filled in that deep, usually when going over crevices or craters on planets. So basically we'll keep soil efficiency in mind more for this ranking, and I'll give it 10 out of 20 for this one. Now let's quickly add up all the rankings. So we've got an 18 for accessibility, then we've got a 6 for speed, an 18 again for finding caves, then for paving roads there was a 19, and for filling holes we gave it a 10 out of 20. That means that it overall got a 71 out of 100. I think that's a good, respectable score, especially since it scored very high in accessibility, finding caves and paving roads, and that's basically what you want for it. It loses a bit in speed and in filling in some holes, but I think these disadvantages can easily be overlooked when you look at how good it handles the other challenges. What do you think? Was my evaluation on point? If not, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd also like to make future videos like this where I review certain things in Astroneer, so make sure to tell me if you enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to also subscribe. That's all for today. I've been Games for Life, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, Astroneers!